Hi, everyone. I'm Julianna Forlano. Welcome to actNOW. I have a very fun show planned for you. We based it off a concept that my friend Ben Burgess over at Jacobin does, where he breaks down a debate with other interesting people. And today I have on the program with me Laura Packard, an interesting person in her own right, but she is also the executive director of Healthcare Voter. And we have Jocelyn McCurdy-Keats. She is a co-host of Solidarity Now here on act.tv, and she's been on our program, and she's going to be more regularly on our program. We're going to be breaking down the fact that Bernie Sanders broke down what's exactly in the damn bill, and that was his words, not ours. So stay with us. This is going to be a great show. All right, so this is the actual action. I know our normal action rundowns are rundowns of actions that are happening on the street, but today we're talking about what Bernie Sanders did in response to some criticism that he himself was slung at Bernie from one of the hosts, Iman, on MSNBC. We played this last week, but I just want to remind you of what they said. Basically, Senator Sanders said that the biggest obstacle to passing the reconciliation package was the corporate media. And then, of course, he was attacked by the corporate media, who said it was his own fault for not getting out there to sell it. But, well, first of all, here's Iman from MSNBC trying to make MSNBC look like it's not a corporate state mouthpiece. Let's take a look.
It's not our job to sell your agenda. You and your colleagues have to do a better job of selling the bill to the American public. Friday, Senate Budget Committee Chair Bernie Sanders released a statement blaming an easy target, the media. The statement read in part, quote, "The mainstream media has done an exceptionally poor job in covering what actually is in the legislation." That induced this response from the New York Times' Maggie Haberman, who tweeted out, "It's always the press's fault and never the fault of the people communicating something." That's just 101. Now, I don't want to be too defensive, but Senator Sanders, you say we've done an exceptionally poor job in covering what's in the bill. I refer you to this MSNBC interview you did the day after the deal was announced. Notice the scroll prominently rolling there on the screen? That's the list of the bill's provisions. Here on this show alone, we have done multiple segments highlighting many of those provisions, with polls actually showing the popularity they enjoy. Now, in fairness, we in the media can certainly be guilty at times of focusing too much on process at the expense of policy. But with all due respect to the Democratic senator, it's not our job to sell your agenda. You and your colleagues have to do a better job of selling the bill to the American public.
And as I said last week, it actually is your job to cover the agenda, maybe not to sell the agenda, but to cover it, because that agenda affects all of our lives. It's insane. Oh yeah. And by the way, suggesting Maggie Haberman from the New York Times, quoting her saying, "Oh, well, it's always the media's fault." Is that the same New York Times that lied us into a war? Because you're shirking a lot of responsibility over there, NYT. Anyway, Bernie, he put out a panel discussion with progressive leaders. It's a rebroadcast. He put this out a while back to make sure the media had something they could use when they didn't want to do their own research. And he played it again this past weekend. So this is a panel discussion with progressive leaders called "What's in the Damn Bill?" They're talking about the historic legislation, which, is finally going to invest in the needs of working people. Joining me to break this down, we're going to watch it, we're going to talk about it, Laura Packard, Executive Director of Healthcare Voter, and soon to be, I don't know, am I allowed to break this news? Soon to be host here, I'm doing it on act.tv, which is very exciting to have you. Hi, Laura, thanks for joining me.
Hello.
It's going to be so fun. And also joining us today, Jocelyn McCurdy-Keats. I told you at the top of the hour that she was going to be here. Look, 3 progressive ladies breaking it down. All right. So you'll have to, here we go. I'm going to play this bad boy. Giancarlo, can you share it, or do I need to do that? There it is. Look at that. We've got Giancarlo behind the scenes pushing buttons and making sure everything goes. Okay, so have either of you ladies watched this debate? Or I guess, it's not a debate. It's a forum, because we're all very logical and calm.
I have not, so I'm coming at this with fresh eyes.
Perfect. Yes. What about you, Jocelyn?
I have not, but I definitely have lots of thoughts on Build Back Better, so I'm excited to see this.
Yes. And I know, Laura, you have all the deets on where we are specifically right now with Build Back Better, where we might be going. But let's take a look at what's in the damn bill, to quote and to feel the burn. I love this guy. They got a nice long introduction. It's very quiet. Dead air.
Grassroots
there it is.
American. Thank you all very much for joining us tonight for what I hope will be an informative and interesting discussion about what I consider to be one of the most consequential pieces of legislation.
Me too. We hope.
We'll sorry. Something happened there. We're hung up on the internet. Do you guys have storms where you are? It's totally crazy storming here.
Well, I think we already know some things. The community college part is big.
Yeah. All right. Well, technical difficulties, but that's fine. That's fine. Laura, why don't you tell us what's going on while my computer loads in the midst of the apocalyptic rainstorm that we're having right here in the Northeast today. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay. So the original idea was a big damn bill. Progressives had in mind $6 trillion worth of stuff that would benefit just about every single American. And then as it entered the meat grinder of the legislative process, it has been cut and cut. So progressives landed on a 3.5 trillion idea a few months ago now, which would include things like expanding Medicare to include vision and dental and hearing, filling the Medicaid gap so low-income people in places like Texas and Florida can finally get health insurance, paid family and medical leave, free community college, all of these great things, and paid for by taxing the rich and lowering the cost of prescription drugs. So that was the idea. But as the process has gone on, particular people, such as perhaps Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema and some congressional Democrats, came out against pieces of it.
Ah, that's no good. And that's where we are, right? That's where we are today. Giancarlo, I need you to move the images around because I can't do that and get the freaking video to play at the same time. We're having a disaster. Anyway, but that's where we are today, right? And it's possible that by tomorrow we might be in a different place. Is that right?
Yes. So this week, they really wanted to get this done by Halloween, which is next Sunday. And also, President Biden is leaving for the environmental conference. That he really wanted to bring some environmental commitments with him. And I think he leaves in a couple days. So anyways, that is the deadline they were trying to work for. And so already this week, it's Tuesday. Yesterday, the big alarm was that conservative Democrats were refusing to lower the cost of prescription drugs because Big Pharma doesn't like that. And today the alarm is that Senator Manchin and some others don't like the idea of expanding Medicaid because some states like Texas and Florida would disproportionately benefit. But the thing is, the people in those states are suffering because they can't afford health insurance because they make too little money. So they have been left behind by their own legislative leaders, but they're still Americans. I mean, We are the United States of America, and it's all of our responsibilities to make sure everyone has health care. So the alarm today is, are they going to cut away paid family medical leave or get rid of it altogether? They're alarmed about what's going to happen with community college funding. So like every day there's new alarms because of the reluctance of Senator Sinema to go after big pharma's obscene profits, and the reluctance of Manchin and others to raise taxes on the people that have been making wild amounts of money in the past few years. But anyways, their reluctance to have a big pie means that we're all fighting for smaller and smaller pieces of a smaller and smaller pie.
And they just to underline the point, Sinema and Manchin both have ties. They're getting a lot of money from this. Where are their constituents? Do we know anything about whether there's an uproar within their constituency?
Well, there is. Both of their approval ratings have nosedived recently. I mean, have never been particularly high because of the things we're talking about. Both West Virginia and Arizona would benefit in a huge way from everything that's in this legislation, which, if you want a better example of how certain members of the Senate are not serving their constituents at all, but moneyed interest, Sinema and Manchin are a perfect example of this. I mean, West Virginia is on the front lines of the climate crisis for a number of reasons. It's a state which would benefit significantly from a shift from coal to green energy. And it's also a state that is dealing with horrendous impacts of underserved communities that happen when you are releasing noxious fumes into a community for generations, and the cancer clusters that result from that. I mean, among other health concerns. But yeah,
I think it's really interesting. I was at a get together, a forum or whatever, to talk about where the news media can go now that, especially the independent news media, now that we all see the writing on the wall that it's really the moneyed interests against the 99%. It took, from Occupy to now, it took a decade to really get that on the table. But I love your point that this is an absolute example of exactly what's going on, and hopefully we can, I don't know. Well, let's watch what's in the damn bill. I finally got the thing to work, so I think we'll see. Here's Bern. Oh, damn, I was so close. It was so close. This is what happened.
Can I,
Go ahead, please.
Wait, are we here?
No, we're not.
For people who haven't been following it as closely as I know Laura and Juliana have, I think it's useful to break this bill into four major advantages. There's healthcare, immigration, climate, and the care economy. I mean, if you really just think of it in those four big buckets, that's a useful way to talk about this bill, because these are four areas where America is not just falling behind, but life is becoming rapidly unlivable for all of us. I think it's something that we discuss a lot, the three of us, but also us as individuals on our various platforms. It is fundamentally unconscionable that a country who creates and generates more wealth than almost any other economy is living in a situation where middle-class working Americans can't afford health care, where people are wondering if they should even have children because the planet is in a code red for humanity. That's from the UN. Well,
let me tell you about having young children right now. It'll make you crazy. Not because it's hard as being a mom, but like all of this climate change and everything that's happening, it just triggers that enormous protective response that I know moms, probably all parents, or some decent parents, whatever, have toward their children, and it creates anxiety, massive amounts of anxiety for people. I've been talking to my other mom friends. I don't know. Have you been hearing about this?
Yes,
like the
I
mom
don't have children, but yes.
I think I got it now. So let's see. John Carlo, I see her little face behind in the tiny screen back there, and I feel like you're laughing at me. All right, here we go. Here's Bern.
And the pandemic has made a difficult situation in many respects even worse. So what a number of months ago, many months ago, what the president and many of us, all of those who are on the panel and many of you, we sat down and we said, okay, we got to do two things. Number one, we got to figure out a way to deal with the economic crisis that the pandemic caused. That is massive.
I hate to stop this, but don't you think someone should have told Bernie to tip his camera down just a little bit? So
Bernie, what are you doing?
But he does have nice, serious Bernie hair today.
He does.
Very, you know.
It's legislating hair.
Exactly. Not
Exactly.
the feel the burn in the wind hair.
Unemployment, that is hunger, that is hospitals running out of money, small businesses going bankrupt. How do we deal with all of that? How do we make sure that we get vaccines into the arms of the American people? And what we developed
Good luck with
was
that.
a plan called the American Rescue Plan, which passed in the middle of the night with one vote. Vice President cast the deciding vote in the Senate and the House. They passed it by a small margin as well. We did not get one Republican to support that bill. That got direct cash payments into people's pocket. And to my mind, that program was enormously successful in helping us economically to get out of the recession or the economic downturn caused by the pandemic. Now, we did that, and I'm proud of what we did. But then
And I just want to
also
say, we don't talk enough, I think, about how the American Rescue Plan passed with no Republican votes. And right now we're talking about this bill that could reshape a lot of pieces of American infrastructure that, again, no Republicans. So I go after Democrats all day long when they don't live up to their ideals and our ideals for electing them. But Republicans are not even on the same playing field. They are not even trying to expand healthcare or look at things like paid family leave or fixing our broken immigration system or having a livable planet for themselves and their children and their grandchildren. So it's very hard to pass comprehensive good legislation when half of government is AWOL.
Yeah, I mean, when I watch right-wing media, it's like they have a certain logic where they think they are actually going to help you. You know, it's like this circular logic, and I don't see how they can think that. They think that, you know, being independent from government is what will make you a better person, and they wouldn't want to foster dependency. I don't understand. It's like a whole bunch of guys, I know there's women there too, who still hate their moms, are mad that they depended on their mom at some point or something, some weird anti-edible.
Well, and I think it's two separate mentalities. I do think that's absolutely true when you're talking about people who vote Republican. There is this delusion of individualism that unfortunately I think has permeated all of American culture and political life. But then at the top level with congressional Republicans, I personally just see sheer profit-mongering self-interest. And that's why it's legitimately terrifying, because I think the three of us, of course, could think, you know, there are a lot of Republican voters who are just misguided, and that's something to sympathize with, especially when you're talking about working class people who are not really in the best situation and maybe are voting out of some sort of delusional, harmed view of what the world looks like. But when you're talking about these multi-millionaire Republicans who are essentially being paid directly and indirectly to act against the American public, that's terrifying. I mean, it's hard to look at that and not see the hand of evil. Especially,
I agree.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I figured you might. But I
knew
know
there was a reason I
that
would
we're
too.
kind of, I'm going all over the place, but I wanted to say this before I forget. I do think it's really important that we address like women and people of color how essential this bill is for us, for any, because, you know, when you look at the care economy, who are care workers traditionally, it's, you know, disproportionately women and people of color. When you look at who is—
well, wait, hold on. These are very good points, but if people are watching this and they don't actually know what's in the damn bill, I think we should let's let Bernie say it, because I know you have very good things to say, and I specifically wanted you to come on to be able to say those. But
my bad.
Okay, hold on. GC, bring back the Bernie. There he is. There he is. My man. Don't give me no slack, Bernie.
That it is not enough to get us out of the crisis caused by the pandemic. We have finally got to deal with the structural crises that have plagued working families decade after decade, way before Trump. Decade after decade after decade. Low-paying jobs, inadequate housing, inadequate health care, inadequate child care, et cetera, et cetera. And we came up with, initially, I'm chairman of the Budget Committee in the Senate, a $6 trillion plan. Well, that was too much for some of my more conservative colleagues. So we cut that down reluctantly to $3.5 trillion. But I want to tell you, I'll give you an overview, and the panelists will go into each of these areas at greater length. I want to tell you what is in the bill. All right. We have had for decades the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth. This is America. We should not have millions and millions of children living in poverty. And what this bill does is provides for universal pre-K, that's for kids 3 and 4 years old. So we're making pre-K part of public education. That's an extraordinary step forward. And we're prepared to put hundreds of billions of dollars into childcare so that no household in America pays more than 7% of their limited incomes, of their incomes on childcare.
Can I say something really quickly?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
First of all, I just wanted to say this before I forget. This is obviously, I don't need to explain to anyone why this is important, but recent figures show that, you know, people are working mothers, if they want to remain working mothers, minimum paying $12,000 a year for childcare alone, not to mention elder care if you have aging parents, which all of us will at some point. And
by the way, that childcare doesn't go far enough.
Right, exactly.
It's not even high quality childcare at that rate of payment, oftentimes. And also, like, if you're a mom and you have childcare that ends at 5 o'clock or 4:30 or whatever time you got to pick up the kid, then you're never off. You're a mom, which is a whole job, and you have a job. So you just like never get any rest at all, which is inhumane.
Right. And they found that working moms, not even necessarily professional, but just women who work, which is almost all women at this point, the median cost that people are paying at this point is more like $30,000, which is an entire salary.
Yes.
That is unconscionable.
Yes, it's absolutely crazy. And here's the other thing. Although I think this is a good idea and I fully support it. Laura, I want to hear your thoughts about this too. Don't let me and Jocelyn, we'll talk your head off. There is this idea that being a mother or a parent, but a mother, is a job. And, you know, feminism is excellent as it promotes women being paid equally in the workforce to men. But I think, you know, being a parent, whether you're man or woman or gender aside, excuse my pronouns, I think that is enough of a job. Like, why don't, I mean, a child tax credit is nice, but why don't we finally recognize care? I mean, why do I have to pay someone else so that I can go work for Amazon? This is what always blows my mind. Like, okay, Bernie's going to pay this other lady to watch so I can go work over there. I don't get why I just don't get paid myself, or at least have some sort of financial support, or even if that comes in the form of other programs, which I think we're about to hear about. You guys' thoughts?
Well, I think we say as a country that we value having children, the having families, and then we fail to support them? How is it that we don't have paid family and medical leave? And women especially took a hit during this pandemic, with so many women that had to drop out of the workforce to care for family members. But it's something that anybody with kids, if you are not wildly rich, you're scrambling to cover childcare. My partner has shared custody of his kids, and his career is in a lower track because he's chosen deliberately to be there for his kids, and that's a sacrifice that a lot of American parents have to make, and we have to do better than that.
Absolutely. I mean, childcare is important, but also just valuing that we're bringing up the next generation of people who are going to take care of this country. I think that's important, don't you? I mean, in Germany, they all get to college for free.
I love what you're both saying, because it's very difficult to notice the water you're swimming in. And it is fundamentally disturbing to me how difficult it is for us to be a part of a family, whether it's, again, caring for a sick relative or a sick partner, or to raise children, because everything is commodified, everything is financialized. And it's like you're saying, Laura, people who decide to prioritize their family, which I think we can all agree should be a priority, are aggressively financially punished for it. Women are 80% more likely to retire in poverty than men. That's disturbing. Well, because of the pay gap, because women are disincentivized from financial literacy, and perhaps most importantly, because women tend to be the primary caregivers, whether, again, for children or for parents or partners or whatever. The burden of care typically falls on women. And not only do we not support women in that, but then they are punished. And that's so disgusting.
A capitalist marketplace needs disempowered, harried, fearful people who will just take any job thrown at them. So I think some of this is actually by design. It's not like, we're just not caring about women. It's a purposeful undermining of people in society. It's traumatizing, it's fear-inducing, it's terrifying. And when you're scared, you're going to take that job at Walmart, even though you have to get on food stamps, even though you're working full-time.
Okay.
Even though you have a college education too, that.
And that could be one of the reasons why there is zero Republican support for Build Back Better, because this bill increases family supports and gives more families choices.
God, I love you, ladies. We've only gotten through 3 minutes of an hour-long thing, so let's go a little bit further. And
I feel like this is my fault. I'm sorry.
No, it's everyone's wonderful responsibility. There's a great joy. We don't have to get through the whole thing. We're just going to go with what we can do. Here we go.
Huge. Stop paying childcare workers the kind of wages that they deserve for the important work they do. This money will continue the $300 direct payment that working parents are now receiving, which has helped us with the American Rescue Plan, cutting childhood poverty in half in America. That is a huge deal. This legislation addresses the crisis in housing. We got 600,000 people who are homeless in America. We deal with that, the largest amount of money put into affordable housing that has ever been seen in the history of this country, to abolish homelessness and to end the high cost of housing that so many working families have to pay. This legislation expands Medicare so that millions of seniors will finally be able to go to a dentist, be able to buy the hearing aids and the eyeglasses that they need. This legislation expands greatly home.
That on purpose.
You have families all over America where elderly people with disabilities want to stay at home, but they're forced into nursing homes because we don't have adequate number of workers taking care of them. We invest very heavily in home health care. This legislation says to our young people, there are jobs, good paying jobs out there. You don't have the skills for them. We're going to make community colleges tuition free. And this legislation, in a very significant way, deals what the scientists tell us we have got to do, and that is the United States has got to lead the world in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel, cut carbon emissions, move to sustainable energy and energy efficiency.
Oh, there we go. I'm very excited about this. I'm very concerned, Laura, maybe you'll be able to answer this question. As they're cutting and cutting and cutting to reach some sort of agreement, how much of the environmental part do you believe they're going to remove? Where are we with that?
Well, I mean, that's the tough part, because one of the key votes they need is Joe Manchin, who represents West Virginia, a coal state. And even though today in America, there are more solar workers than coal miners, I think that he believes that investing in a clean energy economy hurts West Virginians, when it couldn't be further from the truth, because we know coal is on its way out. We know that. Everybody knows that. So what are you going to do for West Virginians instead? And this is a chance to invest in jobs for West Virginians, jobs that won't go away, that aren't going away, that don't require you to work yourself into black lung disease and other kinds of permanently disabling conditions to make a good living in West Virginia. So I think, I hope that as much of the climate provisions will make it into the final bill as possible, because we only have one planet. We don't have a planet B. So it's on all of us if we want a planet we can continue to live on. As we see more extreme weather, from the wildfires here in Colorado and California to the floods in Florida and hurricanes hitting New Jersey, and just all of these more and more extreme weather events are making more and more of the planet be in danger. And we can't ignore it. It's getting worse. This is our last chance to do something.
I mean, it just brings up like internal rage to not be able to like do something about this. It's the fact that guy is getting in the way, it just kills me. Now, here's something kind of interesting that I'm going to have to read it right off my phone, but it's really good news about something that's happening in the oh yeah, the organizers of the COP26 have fired the corporations off of that COP26 because their net zero claims, their numbers don't add up. Isn't that exciting? So officially the oil producers have no role in Glasgow. Isn't that huge? That I just read that today. I was going to report on it in the next day or two, but that's enormous.
Well, and this is, unfortunately, I have to go.
I know, well, because you're covering a stream that then we're going to cover on Thursday.
We're going to be coming to you guys live from the Supreme Court to expand the courts, which is another separate but related issue. Anyway, but I do want to
make your points about the ladies and the stuff that you're going to say.
because I love you guys, and I really hate that I'm rushing off.
No, we're happy that you were here.
But so I think that one thing it's important for us to remember as American voters is the rest of the world is actually kind of on top of this already. And it's a little bit shocking that as the largest economy, one of the biggest perpetrators of climate change, we are also way behind the gate in the defense against whether, public health defense, environmental defense, economy. And so, for anyone who's, investing in their 401k, like maybe now is not the time to buy oil because green energy is the future, whether America is on top of that or not. The question is really, are we going to do it on time? Okay, well, we didn't do it on time. Okay, are we going to do it now, or are we going to wait 10 years, 20 years to a point where our economy and the health of our citizenry has suffered for it? Because
Jocelyn,
oh no,
no. I know that you wanted to talk. We didn't get through much of the Bernie thing, but I know you wanted to make some important points about how this bill specifically affects women and people of color. And I know you did get into that a little bit, but are there other things that you really want to make sure that folks know?
I think, and I'm sure you two will say this over the next 25 minutes, but I think it's just really important to realize that our economy is just already punishing pretty much everyone who is not an affluent white man. And even privileged women, again, as we were discussing, take on more of the burden of caretaking than anyone else to a degree where their career suffers, their income suffers. And this bill is a real opportunity for us to create a world where everybody is not in a constant state of anxiety and duress, which is not progressive. It is the bare minimum in a huge way. Thank you guys so much for having me. And I look forward to discussing this more with both of you over the coming months.
Thank you so much. Good luck at the Supreme Court, and we look forward to the coverage that you do. We're going to bring you that on our Thursday show. So if you aren't already subscribed to act.tv, do it now on whatever platform you're on. Mark your calendars.
And Laura's premiere of Care Talk is 4 p.m. on Monday.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited about that. And that's going to be the kind of show where you can go back and forth, like you can actually interact with Laura, and she's going to, Laura, tell, you're going to answer questions. Is that right? Thank you, Jocelyn. We'll let you go. We know you have to run off to the Capitol, but we appreciate you
guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for all you
Yes.
Laura, how are people going to be able to, talk to you, and what kind of answers are you going to provide?
Well, Care Talk is going to be a brand new show on act.tv, 4:00 Eastern on Mondays. And we're going to have a panel of experts answering your health insurance questions. So if you have a question about Medicare, if you have a question about getting insurance through the Affordable Care Act or Medicaid or anything like that, we will have people there to answer you because this stuff is complicated. I mean, I have done a lot of healthcare work over the past decade or so, and I still work with a professional in figuring out my health insurance situation every year. Mm-hmm. So we aim to take your questions and answer them live on the air.
Oh, that is going to be so great. And how are you going to do that? Is there a phone? Are you using Discord? Are you just people can type things into the Facebook?
We're still working that out, but you should follow act.tv on social media, and then you'll find out.
This is going to be great. Thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate that. Let's go back to watching what Bernie has to say and getting your comments on that. Here we go.
Many, many hundreds of billions of dollars. And one of the areas that we're going to work on is the concept of a civilian climate corps, giving young people good wages and educational benefits as they help us transform our energy system. So that's among many other things that this legislation does. And now what I would like to
before Bernie gets to do what he'd like to do, I mean, we are only a few minutes into this. I still do not understand why MSNBC couldn't be pounding away at this all of the time. And that just shows me what kind of corporate shills they are. I mean, I already know, because if you look at the commercials, they're just bought and paid for literally by big pharma. So it wasn't all that hard to talk about and discuss what's in the damn bill. So again, Laura, your thoughts?
Well, I think the media is interested in conflict, and the media is not so great usually on policy. So if you want to find out what's in the damn bill, you have to watch a live stream to find out, because, the newspapers, TV or whatever are much more interested in covering what did Manchin say today, or is it 3 trillion or 2 trillion, rather than what does this actually do for Americans?
Absolutely. You said it. And you can watch a lot of live streams that do that exact same thing, but we don't do that here on act.tv. We try to bring you information that might be useful. That, the old fashioned way of doing some media. All right, here we go.
Do is to give the microphone over to Mary Kay Henry, who is, as I think many of you know, the president of the Service Employees International Union, the SEIU, one of the great unions in our country, 2 million members strong. And she has been a fierce advocate to make sure that we expand home health care and the workers who do that work finally get paid a living wage. Mary Kay, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Senator Sanders and Grassroots America. The time for us is now. It's great to be with you all and standing in solidarity on every investment that you just outlined, Senator Sanders, in the Build Back Better plan, whether it's addressing the climate crisis, protecting millions of immigrants, or finally investing in our care infrastructure. I think we know that care is critical to our economy. It makes all other work possible. Investing in childcare workers and home care workers means that families will finally get access to the care they need. It means that the 96% of women that do this work, 67% of whom are Black, Brown, immigrant, Indigenous, Asian women will finally be paid a living wage and be able to join together in a union and stay active and advocate for changing their lives and their families' lives. And all the Build Back Better care investments are interconnected. You just made this case, Senator Sanders. We need access to home care, to child care, and to paid family leave for our country to thrive. No one, no matter what they look like, where they're from, or what they do for a living, should have to choose between taking time off to heal from being sick, or caring for a family member, or paying the bills. These programs in Build Back Better will cut costs for families. It raises wages and benefits, and it improves every community in every zip code in the nation. Build Back Better's home care investment will allow more seniors and people with disabilities to live with dignity at home. It also allows people that have had to drop out of the workforce to care for a family member to return to paid work. And it expands services and creates new jobs for the 10,000 Americans that are turning 65 every day. We will need 1 million more home caregivers to care for the expanded elders in our nation. In addition to home care, millions of families can't afford childcare or find childcare they need, despite the fundamental role that you just outlined that childcare in pre-K plays in nurturing the brains of future generations. And just like in home care, our nation is struggling to meet the demand because we've not valued these jobs. We haven't invested in them, and it's time to change all that. Build Back Better is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to invest in women of color and put them at the center of job creation in care infrastructure. Women like Joan Steed, a home care worker from Arizona, despite working around the clock for 30 years in a career she loves, Joan has been paid low wages. She has no retirement savings and is going to continue working past 65. It's women like Brenda Williams from Florida, 17 years of experience in home care, but only makes $10 an hour and has no other benefit. She's 61. Her spine has shifted from putting wheelchairs in the back of a car for her clients, and she works 12-hour shifts 5 days a week just to survive. And not just Joan and Brenda, but she's joined by childcare providers like Nancy Harvey of California. She left her job as an elementary school teacher to start her home-based childcare program over 17 years ago, with a mission of ensuring more children have a head start in learning and developing in the crucial early years. And though she loves her work, she struggles just to get by. So Nancy, Barbara, and Joan, and all of us here in Grassroots America are asking for something quite simple. All workers in the care sector should be paid a living wage for the work they do and get paid leave to be able to save and properly care for themselves and their own families, and have the right to join a union so they can improve their lives through collective action. We have to respect the contributions of all caregivers, especially immigrant women, including essential workers, by creating a path to citizenship.
Watching this angers me. Like, why do we not already have this? I mean, it just really upsets me. And, these are the jobs, the people that she was talking about, the specific jobs, those should be the highest paid jobs. If this was a just world, those would be the highest paid jobs. And people who trade shells and work at a bank, that would be kind of, no one's life depends on it, if you know what I mean. It's sickening. Laura, what do you think the effect would be if care economy parts of this bill get passed. I mean, there's never really been care infrastructure put into an infrastructure bill in the past.
Mm-hmm. Well, this issue is personal for me because my grandparents moved to assisted living when they needed more care than they could get at home, and that wasn't what they originally wanted to do. They originally thought they would have they would be able to access a caregiver, have somebody move in with them, and the economics just didn't work out. So also, when I was going through my cancer treatments 4 years ago, I was incredibly lucky in that both my parents were retired and were able to help take care of me, but that they weren't scrambling to keep their day job and help me while I was scrambling to keep my day job. So a lot of this stuff just depends on how much personal resources, how much you have access to, who in your family is able to step up and provide care. My partner's has access to his mother-in-law to provide this care, the stopgaps. But a lot of people don't have these choices, can't make these choices. And what do you do? What do you do if you're a single parent with kids, especially during this pandemic, and you need to keep your job to pay your rent, and your kids are not in school because of the pandemic and they need somebody there? What do you do? What do you do if your family members need care?
And then you let YouTube market to them. And then, that's what people are doing out of absolute desperation. It's all a big circle of getting screwed by capitalism. And I think this bill would help. But I do have an interest in if the term infrastructure gets broadened to mean care infrastructure, I think that could be, I hate to use the term revolution, but it could be revolutionary here in our politics in the United States, that infrastructure is not roads, bridges, and internet, things that you kind of picture rough and tumble folks in hard hats pounding away, putting together. It's a softer approach to the things that the American public needs.
Mm-hmm. Well, what good are your roads and bridges if people aren't able to use them?
Yeah, because they're dead or whatever. Yeah, I am excited about this. Let's keep going.
This will actually grow our economy and improve wages for everyone. And that's what's so remarkable about the Build Back Better plan. I'm thrilled to be joining you tonight and want to keep fighting like hell to ensure Congress passes this plan. Tell your elected representatives, no cuts, no delays. Share stories like Brenda and Nancy's, and keep fighting, because we know we can't wait any longer for an economy and democracy that works for all of us, no exceptions. Thank you so much, Senator Sanders, for including the 2 million workers that stand in solidarity with all of these fights.
Well, thank you, Mary Kay, for the great work you and your union are doing. Now we're going to hear from Alex Lawson.
Just want to say here that Alex Lawson is another one of act.tv's hosts. He hosts along with Jocelyn, the Solidarity Now show. I think it's Solidarity Live. I'm sorry. I always get it confused with Democracy Now! And Solidarity Now. Either way, it's a great show right here on our very own network. And Alex, I was so excited to see that he was on this program. Check it out.
Alex is the executive director of Social Security Works. Alex will talk about how the reconciliation bill will expand Medicare and what that means, and how it will deal with an issue that the American people feel enormously strongly about, and that is lowering the outrageous cost of prescription drugs in this country. Alex, take it away. Nope, you're on mute, Alex. You're on mute.
I am. It's the
Much better.
tagline of the year. You're on mute. Thank you so much, Senator Sanders.
I gotta just say, I love it when Bernie laughs. Everyone's like, he's so serious. No, look at this. He's got an excellent sense of humor.
It's a real honor to be here amongst these speakers. And I want to just say that Senator Sanders, Representative Ocasio-Cortez, you two represent.
I don't want to take away from Alex's important points, but I do want to say that every time Alex comes on this show, he's wearing like a Grateful Dead t-shirt and he has like crazy Bernie hair, generally speaking. So I like that he got all gussied
He
up.
cleaned up.
He cleaned it up for this. This is very good.
Present the best of what politics can be. When we work together, we can solve problems that all of us face. And it just gives us champions on the Hill fighting for us every day. But we also know, and I think everybody knows, there's a whole other DC. There's a DC where one person can come to Washington, DC, and they can corrupt the entire system to make it work only for the very wealthy, only for the pharmaceutical corporations. I want to take a moment to talk about one of those people. His name's Billy Tozen, all right? He's not that well known unless you know the story. This man came to DC to do one thing: make sure that Medicare could never negotiate prices. He was elected as a Democrat, rose to leadership. Democrats lost power. He switched parties because he would do one thing: to deliver for pharma. And he did. He prevented Medicare from negotiating drug prices. That's why it can't do it. And you want to know what he then did? I think everyone knows what he did. He took a $2 million a year job with pharma. That is the worst of DC, and that's what we're up against. What are the human consequences of that, of this one person's greed and this industry's greed? 30% of Americans do not take the prescriptions that their doctors tell them to because they can't afford it. Millions of seniors, people with disabilities, and everybody else are making choices to cut pills in half so they can pay their rent, to cut pills in half so they can send a gift to their grandchild. That's not America, except it is right now. We have allowed the corporations to buy Washington, D.C. for too long. The pharmaceutical corporations make so much money that it's hard to comprehend. From 2000 to 2018, they made gross profits of $8.6 trillion. 8.6 trillion. That's in the Journal of the American Medical Association article that came out. I mean, that is an ungodly amount of money. And what they do with it is they take a small piece of it and they hand it out to politicians to protect their game. And their game is preventing the government from using its leverage to negotiate a better price. Imagine if that happened anywhere else, right? The largest purchaser of prescription drugs in the world is the federal government, and it is not allowed to get a better deal. And you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, it's very complicated. How are we going to do this or that? It's not complicated. Every other country does this. We're the only country that allows pharma to charge whatever they want. We pay the highest prices in the world. And to add to that, we usually, the taxpayers, pay for the vast majority of research and development on all of the drugs. So there's this question that comes up a lot in Washington, D.C., and usually it's very in bad faith. But the question is, how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for Medicare negotiation? No, Medicare negotiation is how we're going to pay for other things. We're going to drive down your drug prices. You're going to save, but so is the federal government. Hundreds of billions of dollars. That's how badly we're getting ripped off. And with that, we're going to add benefits into Medicare that should have been there from the beginning. My great friend, Dr. Sanjeev Sriram, he told me that you don't need to be a doctor to know that your eyes, your ears, and your teeth are part of your body. And in fact, they're really important parts of our body. And this isn't just feel-good stuff. It is. I want everyone to be able to hear their grandchildren or their partner, spouse. I want everyone to be able to see that. But even a small loss of hearing triples the rate of dementia with people. A loss of vision leads to falls and serious injuries. We can do this, and all we have to do is get rid of that one corrupt thing that prevented Medicare from negotiating lower drug prices, and we're going to do it by all standing together. So thank you so much.
Alex, thank you very, very much.
I do have to say that if you like what you just heard, you can hear more of that here on ActTV on Solidarity Live that Alex and Jocelyn, who was just here with us, are the co-host of. It is on Fridays. You can find it on YouTube. Any thoughts? Anything you wanted to plug in? That was the longest piece we saw yet, because Alex is so scintillating to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he hit the nail on the head. We not only will do a great thing in and of itself by lowering drug prices through negotiation, but it helps pay for everything else that we want. So this should not be so hard, but Big Pharma and their big wallets is making it hard because they're doing big payoffs to the people that are making decisions right now.
Gee, I haven't heard any of this very clear. What was he talking for, like 4 minutes? On MSNBC, I haven't heard any of this very clear the reality behind what are you backing up, Laura? I hear I hear the backing up noise. Is it me? Am I having a okay?
I think there's a truck outside. I'll mute myself.
They're coming to take you away. I'm kidding. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. All I was thinking was that you don't hear on MSNBC very often the things that Alex so clearly put forth about how these cuts are actually going to help us pay for things as opposed to cost the American people things. It's amazing what destroying public education can do to allow people to be open for propagandizing.
Yep. Sadly, this bill doesn't fix that problem, but there are many other parts.
Hopefully, this isn't the last thing that that the Biden administration is going to do. It's not the be all and end all. It's just sort of the beginning. Let's hope. Let's hope.
Let's hope.
Our next guest, I think, doesn't need much of an introduction. He is one of the great organizers in this country, doing a fantastic job in bringing people together from different backgrounds. Reverend William Barber is president of Repairers of the Breach.
And of course, we'll watch this and then we got to go. So you'll have to watch the rest on your own. But let's just do the William Barber piece and then we'll have to go.
And national co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign. Reverend Barber, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Senator Sanders, and to all of you who are gathered on this call, and to all of the grassroots activists. I want to welcome you and come to you tonight on behalf of women and men from Appalachia to Alabama who are saying clearly somebody's been hurting us far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. The Poor People's Campaign, 47 state coordinating committees, over 2,000 religious leaders connected, and over 200 partners. You know, there are really three infrastructures we should be focusing on: with the infrastructure of our democracy, which is voting rights, the infrastructure of our daily lives, which is health care and climate and education and living wages, and the health and the infrastructure of roads and bridges. But what we know is those who are fighting these things, particularly the infrastructure of our democracy, fully supporting voting rights, and those who are fighting full funding of the Build Back Better plan, and those who are trying not to end the filibuster, and those who are not supporting $15 living wages, they are threatening to undermine the very democracy. I knew, Senator Sanders, I called you because I knew we were in trouble with some people when they stood up in the COVID relief bill and literally refused to support $15 living wage, which would have lifted 32 million Americans out of poverty and low wealth, and 40% of African American. And when you see people working to drastically cut the initial investment of the Build Back Better plan, because the EPI, Institute Policy Institute, says we really need $10 trillion to not just to deal with COVID, but the damage that existed before COVID. But when we see this initial investment that you and Representative Cortez and others are fighting so hard for, that we know that when they do this, it will do more harm and hurt and damage to the 140 million poor and low wealth people in this country before COVID. That's 52% of our children before COVID, 60% of African Americans, 26 million people before COVID, 30% of white brothers and sisters, 66 million before COVID, 68% of Latinos before COVID, 68% of Native Americans before COVID. And then COVID happened and 8 million more fell into poverty, while billionaires have made more than $2 trillion since COVID. When people, even before COVID, 250,000 people were dying a year, 700 a day. And here we are finding ourselves in a place where persons don't want to fully support this Build Back Better plan when we know that it will help essential workers and the uninsured and elderly people and women and students and children and home health care workers and the very climate of the earth itself. You are so right, Senator. It's time we put a face on this and tell the story. And while they're doing this so that greedy billionaires can prosper while the rest of the people suffer. This is an abuse of power, contrary to our deepest moral values. These are not politically moderate positions. They are politically mean positions. They violate our deepest religious foundations. When you try to block and undermine what the full funding of something like the Build Back Better plan, you are going directly against Isaiah 10 in the Bible, which says, woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor of their rights. You're going against Matthew 25 that says nations will be judged by how you treat the least of these. And you're going against the Constitution that does not tell us to establish benevolence, but to establish justice and to promote the general, yes, welfare of all people. So what is happening if we don't fight for this and win it, and those who are trying to block it, they are engaging in reality that is constitutionally inconsistent, morally indefensible, politically incompetent, because poor and low wealth people now represent 30% of the electorate. And it's economically insane. And the lie of scarcity is literally sickening in this moment. We spent $21 trillion in war and militarization since 9/11. We gave the airlines over $1 trillion in 1 month during COVID, and 84% of the first COVID money went to the wealthy. And that's why on Sunday, to corporations, that's why on Sunday at 4:00 p.m. at the West Virginia State Capitol, we are having a moral rally and revival where the people, impacted people will speak, not people for them, but the people that are going to be hurt if cuts happen. The clergy will speak, and we're coming together with the people who will be hurt, and they are saying, we cannot accept this, we cannot accept this. And next week, finally, on Wednesday of next week at 10:30 a.m. at the Capitol, we're going to have another rally of people coming together. And senators, we're going to bring the people that are impacted by this plan and will be hurt if it is undermined, stopped, and cut.
That would be tomorrow. So it's not too late if you're watching now to make your plans for tomorrow. We've been watching the What's in the Damn Bill stream, which you can get on Facebook at Bernie Sanders' Facebook page if you want to watch the rest of it. I've been speaking with Laura Packard. Laura, your final thoughts as we come to the end of our show here.
Well, we need the damn bill. So contact your senators, your representative today, and tell them to vote for the Build Back Better infrastructure bill with all of the important pieces included.
When do you think we might hear something about this?
Well, they keep saying any day now, but it really sounds like we're going to hear something this week. That right now they're figuring out what's on the cutting room floor. So contact your people.
How soon do you believe that some of these provisions will take effect?
They're still figuring that out. The latest on Medicare expansion, they're talking about vouchers instead of standing up a program, because it sounded like having Medicare covered dental might take several years to put into effect, but they could do vouchers pretty soon. Things
before your
like
teeth all fall out.
Yes.
So you can still eat and not starve to death. Yes.
Yeah, and things like the Affordable Care Act subsidies, those expire next year. So this would mean that there will be no drops in coverage.
And that would be good. Our fingers are crossed. Thanks for all the work that you have been doing, Laura Packard. Your new show is at 4:00 right here on act.tv. Laura Packard, Executive Director of Health Care Voter. What's the show called, Laura?
We're thinking about Care Talk. So if you
Care Talk.
drive a car, you listen to Car Talk. If you need healthcare, listen to Care Talk.
That's awesome. Can I come on there and be like the Car Talk guys? Like, hey, I'm concerned about healthcare. Let's take her under the hood. I love those guys. Oh my God. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. And I look forward to your inaugural show. I will definitely be watching and call you with all my questions.
Thank you.
All right. You're watching ACT TV. I'm Julianna Forlano. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to us wherever you find us. We are on Apple TV. And I don't know how I feel about that now that Apple TV has decided to give Trump a platform. But I think we're going to talk about it right here on this show in an upcoming episode. This coming Thursday, don't miss our program. I've got a lot of good stuff planned for you. Joe Cirincione's coming on from formerly of Plowshares to talk about nuclear proliferation. It's a big topic. And guess what? Ben Dixon from the Ben Dixon Show is going to break down the headlines with us. So don't miss. Set your Alexa, set your timer, set your clock, whatever. Or, you can watch the replay too. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.